A boutique fitness studio can charge $30 for a single 45-minute class, more than triple what a big box gym charges for an entire month of unlimited access. And people pay it gladly, every week, sometimes multiple times a week. That premium pricing is the whole reason this business exists, but it's also exactly why so many studios quietly struggle, even while their classes look packed on Instagram. Most people assume a boutique studio is basically a small, trendy gym with better branding and nicer towels. It's actually a completely different business model built around instructor-led experiences rather than equipment access, where your biggest expense is the person leading the class, not the space they're standing in. Understanding exactly how that changes the math separates the studio owners building a genuinely sustainable business from the ones who open something beautiful and can't figure out why the bookings never quite cover the bills. So let's actually open the books on this one. The reality check. From the outside, a boutique studio looks effortless. A cycling room, a reformer Pilates floor, a small yoga space, a smiling instructor, upbeat music, a full class roster on the screen. It looks like a business that basically runs itself once you've got a loyal following. What's actually happening is closer to running a live performance venue that happens to involve exercise. Every single class needs a certified, often specially trained instructor, paid whether the room has 5 people or 25. And unlike a big box gym where members wander in and out on their own schedule, a boutique studio's entire revenue depends on filling specific scheduled time slots throughout the day. Add in a much smaller physical footprint than a traditional gym, premium pricing that only works if people genuinely believe the experience is worth it, and increasing reliance on third-party booking platforms that take a real cut of revenue in exchange for filling empty spots, and you start to see why this business runs on entirely different logic than either a traditional gym or a typical small retail shop. That's exactly why the studios that thrive treat instructor scheduling and class fill rates as the core strategic decision of the entire business, not a scheduling afterthought handled by whoever's at the front desk. But here's what the numbers actually look like. Chapter 1. Startup Costs. Opening a boutique fitness studio is considerably more affordable than a full commercial gym, mainly because the physical footprint is so much smaller. A typical studio space runs 1,500 to 3,000 square feet, well under a tenth the size of many commercial gyms. And in most US, Canadian, or UK markets, a space this size in a decent, foot traffic-friendly location runs $4,000 to $12,000 a month in rent, depending on city and neighborhood. Equipment costs vary enormously depending on the format. A cycling studio needs specialized stationary bikes, commonly $1,500 to $2,500 each, meaning a room of 20 to 30 bikes alone can run $30,000 to $75,000. A Pilates reformer studio needs specialized reformer machines that often cost $3,000 to $5,000 each. A yoga or bar studio, by contrast, needs relatively minimal equipment, keeping that specific line item much lower. Build-out costs, flooring, sound systems, mirrors, lighting, and locker or changing areas commonly add another $50,000 to $150,000, depending on the format and the condition of the space. Licensing requirements are generally straightforward, typically a standard business license plus liability insurance, though instructors usually need format-specific certifications, and studios that offer a franchise concept rather than operating independently, which is common in this industry, also carry an upfront franchise fee and ongoing royalty on top of the build-out costs. Here's what most people miss. Because equipment and build-out costs are relatively front-loaded and fixed, the real ongoing risk in this business isn't the initial investment. It's underestimating how long it takes to build a stable base of repeat clients large enough to fill a full class schedule, which is exactly why experienced studio owners budget for a genuinely slow first 6 to 12 months rather than expecting classes to sell out from opening week. Chapter 2. Revenue Streams. A boutique fitness studio doesn't make its money one simple way. It stacks a few distinct revenue lines, and the mix between them matters enormously to overall stability. Membership and class package revenue is the core of the business, typically structured as either an unlimited monthly membership, commonly $150 to $300 a month, or class packages sold in bundles, often $30 to $40 per class when purchased individually, dropping to $20 to $28 per class when bought in bulk packs of 10 or 20. Retail and merchandise, apparel, accessories, and branded gear adds a smaller but genuinely useful secondary revenue stream, since boutique fitness clients tend to be brand loyal and willing to spend on studio-branded products. Instructor certification and teacher training programs have become a real revenue category for many studios, since experienced instructors can train the next generation of teachers for a fee, turning existing expertise into an additional income line beyond regular classes. Third-party booking platforms, apps like ClassPass that let users book classes across multiple studios for a monthly subscription, have become a meaningful channel for filling otherwise empty spots. Though here's the number that surprises most people. These platforms typically pay studios a wholesale rate that can run 40% to 60% below the studio's own retail class price, and take a booking fee on top, which means over-relying on that channel can quietly train your own potential members to expect a steep discount. That's exactly why the strongest studios treat platforms like this as a tool for filling genuinely empty slots rather than a primary sales channel.
Chapter 3: Operating Costs. Now to what actually eats into that revenue. And this is where the instructor-led model becomes the defining feature of the entire cost structure. Instructor payroll is by far the largest cost, and because every class needs a qualified, often specially certified instructor, regardless of how many people show up, labor cost is tied directly to how many classes you schedule, not how full those classes actually are, which means a studio running 15 classes a day carries meaningfully higher payroll than one running 8, independent of attendance. Pay structures vary, but commonly fall into one of two models: a flat per-class rate, often $35 to $75 or more depending on format and experience, or a base rate plus a per-head bonus, for example, a $30 base payment plus an extra $2 for every attendee beyond the first 10. Either way, the studio is committed to paying that instructor the moment the class goes on the schedule, whether the room ends up half empty or completely full. Rent is the other major fixed cost, and while the smaller footprint keeps the total dollar amount lower than a full commercial gym, rent still typically represents a larger share of revenue than it would for many other small businesses, given the premium locations boutique studios often need for visibility and foot traffic. Equipment maintenance and eventual replacement, reformer machines, cycling bikes, and sound systems all need periodic servicing, adds a real ongoing cost, along with insurance covering both general liability and the injury risk inherent in physically intense group classes. Marketing and client acquisition round out the picture, and this is a genuinely significant cost category in this industry specifically, since boutique studios depend heavily on trial classes, promotional pricing,
And social media presence to continuously attract new clients in a market where client churn is a constant reality. Here's the retention hook worth remembering. Because instructor payroll is scheduled rather than variable, a half-empty 9 a.m. class costs the studio nearly the same as a completely full one, which is exactly why fill rate across every single time slot matters just as much to profitability as total membership count. Chapter 4: Profit Margins and Real Numbers. So what's actually left over? Industry figures commonly cited by boutique fitness consultants put well-run studios in the 15 to 25% net profit margin range on total revenue, which requires real discipline around scheduling given how much of the cost base is fixed regardless of attendance. Let's run a real example. Take a studio with 250 active members paying an average of $180 a month. That's $540,000 a year in membership revenue, plus roughly $30,000 in retail and teacher training, for total annual revenue of $570,000. Instructor payroll at 42% of revenue takes $239,400. Rent at 17% takes $96,900. Equipment and insurance combined at 12% takes $68,400. Marketing and admin combined at 11% takes $62,700. Add those costs together. $239,400 plus $96,900 plus $68,400 plus $62,700 equals $467,400. And that leaves $102,600 in annual net profit, a margin of exactly 18%, squarely within that commonly cited industry range. Here's what separates a studio that's just getting by from one that's genuinely thriving. Because rent and a meaningful share of equipment and insurance costs stay largely fixed, growing membership matters far more than adding instructor hours across the board. Push that same studio from 250 to 320 members through stronger retention and referrals, needing only a modest increase in class count to accommodate the growth, and annual revenue climbs to roughly $729,600,
while total costs rise to about $506,730, since fixed costs barely move, pushing net profit up to nearly $223,000, a margin over 30%, more than double the original dollar profit from a membership increase of just 28%. Chapter 5: Risks and what makes someone succeed or fail. Now, the honest part. This business has real pressure points, and they're worth naming clearly. Instructor dependency is a genuine ongoing risk because clients often follow a specific instructor's personality and teaching style as much as they follow the studio brand itself. Losing a popular teacher can directly hurt retention in a way that rarely happens at a traditional gym, where members don't form the same personal connection with staff. Over-reliance on discounted third-party booking platforms like ClassPass is a quieter but real risk too, since building a client base that only shows up when a class is heavily discounted through an app undermines the premium pricing the entire business model depends on. Client churn is a constant pressure in this industry specifically, since boutique fitness trends shift quickly and clients frequently rotate between studios chasing novelty, requiring steady new client acquisition just to maintain a stable base, not just to grow it. But here's what actually separates studio owners who thrive from ones who struggle: disciplined scheduling and genuine brand loyalty building. The most successful owners build a class schedule around real demand data rather than guesswork. Cross-train multiple instructors in popular formats so the business isn't overly dependent on any single teacher, and invest in building loyalty to the studio brand itself rather than any one instructor, so client relationships survive staff turnover. The owners who struggle usually made one of two mistakes. They built a schedule around convenience rather than actual demand data, leaving expensive empty time slots on the books. Or they let the studio's identity become entirely dependent on one star instructor, leaving the business vulnerable the moment that person moved on.
This is a business built for people who think like both a fitness brand builder and a scheduling manager, not people who just want to open a beautiful space and hope clients show up. Everything here is general business education, not financial, legal, or investment advice. If you're seriously exploring boutique fitness studio ownership, whether independent or through a franchise concept, you'd want to research local licensing and insurance requirements, review any franchise agreement carefully, and speak with an accountant experienced in membership-based fitness businesses before committing any capital. What's clear from the numbers is that a boutique fitness studio isn't really a small gym with better branding. It's a scheduling and instructor relationship business where the winners are the ones who treat class fill rates and brand loyalty as seriously as they treat the workout itself. So here's my question for you. Would you rather own a premium-priced instructor-dependent business like a boutique fitness studio, or a lower-priced, higher-volume gym model with less staffing complexity? Tell me which you'd choose and why in the comments.